Hi, my name is Daniel Posney, and I'm here with my very dear friend, Chess Edwards.
Hello.
Chess is a self-discovery guide who reunites people with their true inner peace and authentic wisdom so that they may navigate their lives with resilience, power, and presence. Wow. Chess has spent a lifetime of study and devoted practice, awakening him into his own imperishable truth of being, so that he may now help guide the same beautiful awakening for others. So I love that. I mean, that kind of really speaks to what Chess is and how he lives his life. And I don't want to share how I feel about Chess and what he's done for my life. He's just a very strong, I mean, if you just look at him, he's got a very strong presence, and he's right there with you. If there's ever time that I need a higher understanding of something or to shift my consciousness about something, he's right there. He's made this a practice in his life, and he's immersed in this. So I know that when I bring up something with Chess, that he's going to come to the highest understanding of it. And I really appreciate that.
I love you, man.
Yeah,
I so appreciate our connection, our conversations, and our explorations.
Oh, man.
And it's always equally as fulfilling for me.
Right on. So, Chess, you've always been a guide of some sort. Isn't that right?
Yeah. It's been interesting coming into this time in my life and the work that I'm doing now. I look back and I recognize that two of my core values have always been truth and beauty. There was always a desire to seek out beautiful things, beautiful experiences, and the most pure experiences I could. So I spent about 20 years as an adventure travel guide. So I was traveling and leading treks in the Himalayas and South America, and river raft trips up in Idaho, and whale watching and sea kayaking trips down in
We've
Baja.
lived similar lives.
Yeah. And the reason was because I found I had enough wounding and betrayal in my youth that when I had this inclination for beauty and for purity and for truth, I wasn't finding it in people. So I went to nature. I went to the outdoors, and my work has always been to go to a place like the Himalayas, absolutely fall in love with the beauty and the purity and the authenticity of it. And then to come back and gather people up and say, you got to come check this out. Maybe you've never visited a place like this before. It's beautiful. I've been there, and I might be able to help guide you a little bit in how you might get there. It's the same work I do now.
Wow.
I go to the most beautiful and pure place that I've ever found, which is the imperishable truth of being. And then I go get people and go, you got to come check this out.
Check what I just
experienced. Maybe you've never been here before. And I can help guide to how you might enter into, cross this threshold, and take this journey to a beautiful place that perhaps you've never explored before.
I think I know that is the most powerful way to assist people or to help people shift is when you've had the direct experience. We can talk about theory and understanding and knowledge and all that stuff, and this should work. But when you come from that direct experience, I know where it is. The path there, I know that path very well. And so let's go there together.
And I think my experience of that is that as I was on this path for a while there, I was pointing to it more from an understanding. And when it shifted, when it really dropped and embodied, and truly the old constructs of self dissolved and dropped away. Now when I speak about it and I guide, I'm just accessing, okay, now what does it feel like? What's my experience of it? And then I can guide it so much easier rather than just explaining concepts that I understand.
It just comes out with more passion and more heart, more love. Beautiful.
I think so.
So what threshold are you helping people move across these days?
It keeps coming back to the same thing. It keeps coming back to helping people meet. It feels like the most important part of this path and journey is actually a true recognition of who we're not. Like to really get a handle on, to really grok the nature of the illusion of ourselves that we've built. And until we're aware of that, it's hard to look for and abide in and recognize our true nature until we can see the insanity of the fact that we've been living from a constructed image of self in our own minds. So that's the threshold. The threshold is helping people recognize the dream state that they've been in of referencing a self that they've completely made up, and waking up to that first and going, oh my God, I've been leading my entire life, all my decisions, everything I do is based on an image of self that I've constructed in my own mind. When we get that insanity, it's easier to say, oh my God, I don't want to do that anymore. It's clear that that's what my suffering is. Now I'm interested in, so if I'm not that, help me find and discover and access who I really am.
I found that to be a real difficult thing. Like, when you are lost in your own dream, it's hard to realize that there's something different, more beautiful, more expansive, other than what you have been experiencing from this other place.
Exactly. If it's the only story you've got, if it's the only thing you've got, and you're addicted to or habituated to acting from that, as that, and you've never really truly inquired deeply into there might be something else, then of course, that's what we do.
Yeah,
it's
the way it is.
Habit. And this is just the way
it's as good as this.
Yeah.
I remember for me, years ago, it was, I had been kind of leading my life through this mask, oh, I do all these things and I do all these sports and surfing and all this. And then it took me really to kind of crumble down my life to say, you know what, all that stuff, the way that I was living was crap. And if it's going to be that way anymore, I don't want to live that way.
Yeah.
And it just, for me, it took me because I didn't have a Chess in my life. I can only imagine if I would have had a Chess Edwards in my life, how I could have made that shift so much quicker, so much more gracefully, coming from lost and wearing a mask into true awakening and realization of my own true nature.
I couldn't have done it without my teachers.
Yeah.
There's just no way. I spent, I'm 57 now, and it wasn't until my mid 40s or so that I really started to make the shift from the personal development to the spiritual development. I started to make the shift from the personal development, which was saying I've got these disempowering thoughts, disempowering beliefs, old ideas and beliefs of self, of unworthiness and not lovable and anxious and will I be betrayed and abandoned and all that. I need to get rid of those. But then I was always trying to recreate a self. I was always trying to say, okay, clearly those aren't working. I got to get rid of those. And now I need to have a better image of self.
I'll make myself a better person.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And in this teaching, it's saying, to recognize that, yes, we are people and we are a person having a human experience, but to live that disconnected from our eternal nature, our true self. I do like. What if we just stop creating any selves and learn to listen to the absolute beautiful, incredible truth that we already are? There's an isness, of being that's already present.
And what about people that have a fear of like, well, if I do that Chess, I'm going to lose myself?
Yeah.
Or what's going to happen to my identity and that kind of thing?
It's so funny to watch. So I'll tell you a story about that, about that, the nature of this thing that we're afraid to lose. But right before that, I've watched it happen again and again, leading people into a deeper meditation and allowing them to drop and set down and put down the constructed self that they've created in their mind and allow a beautiful wholeness. It's like it's indescribable. A natural, peaceful, whole, imperishable self. And then you'll see the ego panic. You'll see the ego go, whoa, hold on. Like, you can't leave me behind because this is the only me I've ever known. This is the me who makes decisions. This is the me who decides what works for me and what doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so the question often comes up, how will I navigate life without that? And the only answer I can give is more authentically than you've ever navigated life before.
You've been making it harder than it could be. That's it. We've just gotten used to it being just this hard pushing process.
Right. You're running everything through a conditioned self that was conditioned by good programming, good parents, bad parents, good experiences, bad experience. You know, all this stuff that we've used to construct our story of self, and we're filtering everything through that story. Mm. And that story is dictating how we react, how we respond, and how we feel. And we say, what if I lose that? And the answer is, thank God, you will actually be able to respond to life from who you truly are, which is simply unconditional loving awareness.
I love that, because once you really start to tap into this, what Jess is talking about, there is only one part of you that's scared about this, and that's the ego identity that has built all the stuff up. But you, the presence of you, the truth of you, is going, it's about time.
Yeah. Your fear does not belong to you. It's not authentic to you.
Yeah.
It belongs to your story. Your doubts are not authentic to you. They belong to your story.
Yeah.
You know, your anger, your judgment, all of these things that make us feel constricted and small and tight don't actually belong to the truth of us. They belong to the story that we've constructed. Isn't that wild? So as you know, recently I got back from Guatemala.
Yeah, tell us about that.
I went down for a 10-day darkroom retreat. So it was 10 days and 11 nights in the absolute pitch black, just me in a room for that amount of time. And it was one of the more transformational experiences that I've had. It took this path and journey that I'm on and just absolutely dropped it in, embodied it in a way that had never happened before. Mm. And one of the most fascinating things that happened was when you go into the room, you've got a candle. So you can orient to the room. And this is a beautiful room created with river stones inlaid in all the walls. It's about 10 foot by 10 foot. So I went in with a candle, and I knew what the room looked like. So, and I knew where the bed was and the meditation platform and the sink and the shower. And okay, so I know what the room looks like. I'm oriented, and it's empty space in the room, because it would be dumb in a dark room experience.
Put a table.
Yeah, to put a bunch of stuff to trip over, right? So there were no cats or dogs or anything to trip over. So at some point you blow out the candle and it's dark. Night 4, and I knew it was night because I could still hear birds outside. Mm. And so when birds turned into crickets, I knew daytime had turned to night.
Wow.
So I knew it was the end of day 4, and I was moving into night 4. And I won't go into the reason why this happened, but I had a major breakthrough emotionally, spiritually. And in that breakthrough, suddenly the room started to light up. So I'm sitting there in the pitch black, and suddenly I start to look around, and I'm sitting in a room that I can see. I can see that wall over to my right, about 6 feet away, washed with a soft wash of red light, and that wall over there splashed with a soft splash of green light, and the wall in front of me, beautiful yellow light and such. And I look up and I can see the ceiling, and I can see the room completely. Now, it's not as stark relief as this, but I can see it. But of course I can't, because it's pitch black. I'm hallucinating the room.
That's kind of weird.
Now, I can also tell I'm hallucinating it, because even shutting my eyes, I still see it. And then I'd look away, and I'd look back over, and now that wall is closer than it was a moment ago. Or the wall that was straight is now sloped with the rocks, the river rocks tumbling down into the room. So I'm making up the room. That room for the next 6 days kept changing, kept shifting, kept morphing. I'd be sitting in a meditation, and all of a sudden I'd recognize that I was just in a little 4x4 space. River stone walls were this close. But they're not, of course. Then I started to see beams. I started to see, like, I could see that wall over there, but only about 3/4 of it. And then it was black. So the mind went, well, there's an obstruction, must be a beam. And then my mind starts making up beams that are going from the ceiling down to the floor at these weird angles. So the room's kind of getting cluttered a bit with the beams and obstructions. Now, I know the room is empty. I know it. I know that if I back up against the bed, I can walk about 8 steps in that direction to get through empty space and arrive at the sink. but I'm seeing things. I'm knowing the room is empty, Daniel. I'm actually moving through the room, hesitating, ducking, wincing, like, oh, okay, and then putting my hand through beams to prove they're not there. And I'm moving through life, through the room in a hesitant nature based on my hallucinations.
See, people might be thinking about the story that you're telling. You might be saying, well, of course, he's been in there for so many days. Chess is going crazy. That's not how I see it. I see it as that you can't trust the processes of your own mind.
No. So the mind doesn't like emptiness. It doesn't like not knowing. So it created a room. It created a hallucination. And in the mind's way of thinking, it has no alignment or allegiance to truth.
Yeah.
It doesn't care if it's true or not. It just wants to create something it can work with. So now look at how we construct the self. When we're young, toddlers, infants, we start to get a sense of self, right? I exist. I seem to exist. I exist. Mom exists. Dads exist. The dog exists. Houseplants exist. There's a sense of me in relationship to other things. So naturally, as the ego develops, the question is, well, who is this me that exists? I better start figuring out the nature of me so that I can navigate in the world and get what I want and avoid what I don't want and have a sense of self in the world.
And fill in all the empty spaces, because the mind doesn't like the empty spaces.
So that's what we do. So we start to say, well, who am I? And in the absence of truth, remember, in the room, in the absence of light, the mind made up a room.
Yeah.
In the absence of truth, the mind makes up a self.
Wow.
Because if we don't know when we're young, we don't have a cognizant sense of, oh, I am the one consciousness. I am just a individuated expression of infinite awareness. We don't have any sense of that. So we need to make up a self because there's lack of truth. We've hallucinated a self. Myself hallucinated itself as not worthy and not lovable or going to be abandoned. And so I went through life wincing and moving through my own hallucination of self, just as I was walking. So there I was walking through this room, hesitant around things I absolutely knew were not there. And so that's why this journey can be long for some people, and you watch them. They receive the truth, they recognize the true nature of self, and it's still hard to see beyond the hallucination. So one of the things that got really fun in the room was I started to go, okay, this will be fun. They're just hallucinations. And it was a wild to walk across the room and walk my head right into beams. or to sit in a space and in a meditation and the walls were suddenly this close, like stone walls, and to take my fist and just go like that, just punch right through them because I absolutely knew they weren't there. Can we learn to walk through our lives absolutely in the truth of who we are, with the stability and the wholeness and the peace and the confidence, to have our illusions come up, our fears, our doubts, our uncertainties, our stories of self, to have them come up and move through them just as the hallucinations that they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got some time with chess. You see what chess is about. I wish I could put you in front of everyone that I know, chess. There's not one person that could not benefit from chess. And so how can people get a hold of you?
Through my website, which is chessedwards.com, and chess is just like the game, CHESS. And reach out to me through the website, and I offer free 30-minute discovery sessions.
Wow.
So in that time, we can discuss these types of things and take a look at where your own hallucinations are showing up for you. So that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Beautiful, man.
I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you.